Welcome to this edition of OWS Video FAQs. In this video, we will discuss how to create a user account for a customer and how to utilize user groups to provide the correct permissions for that user. The live demonstration will show a full administrator account side by side with an account with no permissions. We will add the permissions to that user group and show how the various features and functions of OWS can be enabled for the user group. There's a lot to review, so let's get started. The objectives for this video tutorial are: create a user for the customer and send the email invite, review the email invite and user acceptance, apply permissions to allow recorders, search, and clip sharing, and then a brief discussion regarding best practices for creating user accounts and developing group memberships. So let's get signed into OWS and look at adding a user to the customer account. User management is a very powerful feature, and it's also very easy to use. What we see here is a split screen. I'm signed in as an administrator on the right-hand side, and a new user has signed in on the left. And if you notice, I have access to recorders, and the new user currently doesn't. That's because the new user doesn't have those permissions yet. So let's discuss number one, creating a new user. And then we'll discuss how to add and change permissions for that user. To add a new user, from the settings gear, if you select users, you can very simply say add a new user, give their first and last name and an email address. You can add them to an existing group or not, and then click add new user. An email will go out to that end user inviting them to become a user. They can then accept the invitation, set up their password, and they're ready to go. So with that being said, let's assume that I just finished sending my invitation to Jim, new user, and he's accepted and he's signed in, and this is the screen that he comes to. So as we can see, he currently has no permissions to view any recorders, etc. So the first thing we might want to do is let's locate Jim, new user, by going to the search bar and putting in his name, and here it comes. So what we can now do is we can edit this user. When we look at the user, we can see different things, details about the user, any alerts and reports that they may be set up for, notifications, etc. But the big deal right now is the group that this particular user belongs to and what permissions are associated. So if we take a look at the group membership, I can see that he's put into a new user demo group, and that's a group that I use for new users in the demos. They come in with no permissions, and then we can add to them. So what we could do right now is we could add this user to another group. If this was a power user, we could make them an administrator and give them all rights right now. We may have other groups set up for general managers or shift managers, etc., that we could put people into with limited permissions. What we'll do here, though, is just show how easy it is to grant permissions. So if we click on this user group, it's going to come up, and there are all kinds of areas within that have different permissions for web services, the recorders, the permissions for the recorders. Let's just start out very simple and go to recorders. As we can see right now, there are no recorders added for this end user. So if we go ahead and add a recorder, we'll be given a list of available recorders, and we can select one, and then we can say add. As soon as we do that, we can come back over here to our end user and refresh their screen, and now you can see they now have a recorder that they can connect to. If I simply meant to give them permission for all of those recorders, I can go back in, and we can go back into add recorder, and I can add the rest of that list, and they can come in and have all of these to check. After I've added that, if I come back over here and refresh, we'll see that now these folks can choose from all these different recorders. So that's how easy it is very quickly to grant access to the end user for various recorders. Very simple and very straightforward. So the next thing that we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll connect to one of these recorders. All right, and upon connecting to the recorder, we'll see that a single camera pops up. And again, I can go ahead and change this and change my grid size and add different cameras to this if I want as well. But you'll notice also right now that the only permission that this user has is to view live cameras. So let's add some other permissions for them. Let's continue to grant some permissions to this user by altering the permissions within their user group. So we've given this particular user in the user group access to the recorders, access to live viewing. The next thing we need to do is grant them access to view recorded video and export that. So to do so, all we have to do is click on Recorder Permissions, and then under Recorder Permissions we will say permission to view recorded video as well as export video. Don't forget to scroll to the bottom and press Save. Once that's done, we'll come back out to the actual end user portion of the portal. And now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll refresh, and we'll go back into that particular recorder, and now we can see not only can we do live viewing, we can do recorded video search. So that's how easy it is to grant that permission and quickly get somebody up and running with the things that they need to do. Now, since we have also granted permission to export video, it would also make sense now to allow that user group to access the stored video clips and then also permission to share those. So let's go back out into the customer page, and from our permissions side of things we'll go into Web Services Permissions. Now from here we'll scroll down and we'll say number 1, from a video clip management perspective, we'll grant that user group permissions to view clips that have been saved by others. We'll also grant them the video clip permissions so they can edit clips, share clips, and view clips, but let's take away this ability to delete clips. Once we've set that up, all we have to do is press Save at the bottom, and if we come back here to our user and we refresh their page, they now have access to the saved video clips, and they can also then share those clips. A few specific takeaways to consider here, please. The Management Channel Partner portal is easy to identify as the banner bar is orange. The Customer portal is also easy to identify as the banner bar is blue. When you first sign into OWS, you'll be taken to the Management Channel Partner portal where you can select or manage your customers. When entering users from the Management Channel Partner portal, those users are specifically for the channel partner and not for customers. Users for customers are entered in the Customer portal, blue banner bar. Adding a new user involves entering a name and an email address, sending an email invitation, and the person inviting accepting the invite and changing their password. Permissions for users are set within user groups, not the individual user level. 3 default user groups are included with OWS. Their granular permissions cannot be changed. However, you can build custom groups with fine-tuned permissions to meet your exact needs. Permissions for sharing saved video are found in Web Services Permissions, while permissions for playback and exporting video are found in Recorder Permissions. This concludes this video FAQ. If you have questions, please contact training@openeye.net. Join us again for more interesting videos. There's more to be seen.